What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you guys like it. Let's get into it. Basically, the four necessities we're gonna need is obviously the plastisol of your choice, your colorant, use a metal knife, and then you're gonna need a glass measuring cup. So here you could see the plastisol looks really white and milky. That's how plastisol comes, and that's obviously gonna change once we reach the proper conversion temp, which is 350 degrees. I popped that in the microwave for about a minute and a half or so, just to get that temperature going up in there. But we're obviously not done. As you can see right here, I'm stirring it around, making sure that everything got cooked evenly and well. I still have like thick goop, and it's real gooey around the edges, which basically is telling me that the plastisol hasn't cooked thoroughly all the way through. And I have this heat gun, which checks basically surface temp, and that reads 347, which means, yeah, this plastisol is almost there, but it hasn't reached that final conversion temp. So pop it back in the microwave for about 15 seconds, I want to say, and just stir it all around again. Make sure that you're not only getting a surface temperature, that you're really getting everything well mixed and getting a final temp. Right here, this is a vacuum pump, and it's optional. It's totally optional. A lot of people use it, and mainly the reason for it, or its purpose, is actually to extract any moisture, bubbles, air pockets, anything like that. And it just pulls all of that out of there and gives you a final product which is just flat, clean, more solid. Because obviously if you have all these air pockets in your baits, once you actually use them out in the water, and they're gonna be tearing easier, they're gonna be ripping or falling apart, just because they have all these little weak points in them. So by doing this, it obviously just pulls it all out. It's like sucking all the air out of that plastic. And yeah, it doesn't take too long. It takes about, maybe, I want to say, anywhere from 4 to 8 minutes, about, just depending on how much air is really built up in that plastic. But ultimately you want to let it reach that final max on the gauge. The gauge is what's going to let you know that that plastic is extracted. And obviously you could see I hit the 30 mark over here. So we just release the air, letting it get back in there. And obviously the lid isn't going to remove itself, because with all that pressure of the vacuum like sucking, the lid is basically closed shut. So you have to let the air back in, and then you take your lid off. And after we pulled it out, this is what we got. We have a nice clean plastic, no bubbles, no air pockets. We're good to go from here. Right here, you just add your colorant of choice. And some colorants are different. Some are more runny and watered down, if you want to say. I know Dead On Plastics has some really good colorants. You don't need that much to make a really solid color, because it's really thick stuff. I really like this plastic colorant. So we're gonna give it a couple drops. There's no really a count to say, but 30 to 40 drops usually works best. And just stir it in. Now remember, when stirring your colorant in, you don't want to overwork the plastic, only because if you violently mix it in again, all that air that we just took out, you're basically putting it back in. You could redo it in the vacuum pump, you could put it back in, but why do it twice? So it's totally up to you if you want to or not. Once the coloring is mixed in really well, I put it back in the microwave and reach 350 again. Then I start my first dip. So my first dip is basically 2 dips with a 5-second pause in between them. And then I basically use the rim of the cup to pull off any of those tag ends. And by doing that, you're basically you're trimming the tips without really having to use any scissors or manually pull them off. That kind of does it for you. And I'll just give it, 2 dips. You could do more if you want. I start with 2 though, because kind of figured out that gives you a thin but yet solid layer on the bottom. It's totally up to you, totally how you want to do it. And once we do that first dip, we want to put them to the side, let them rest, let that plastic really set up. You don't want to be messing with it yet because it's still hot. You could deform it in a way, you could twist them, rip them. You just want to have it set down, let them cool down. I give it about maybe 2 minutes, and that's really what I do. You could see here there's a thin layer of plastic on there. You can still see the rod through it, nothing crazy. And for the second dip, now we begin the second dip. And what I do for the second dip is I put it back again in the microwave and bring it up to 350, because you want that plastic to be runny and you want it not too thick to where it's gonna just create this thick tube. You remember, tubes are they're thin. Once you cut the fingers, you want them to be flapping a little bit, moving around, wiggling. And that's pretty much what I do. You could do 2 dips, 3 dips on that final one. I do 3 just because this colorant was pretty light and I wanted it to be very bright in the water. So that's why I gave it that extra dip. And we're gonna repeat the process again. And we're gonna give it, dip it in, pull it out, give it, 3 seconds, dip it back in, let all of that excess just drip down. And then I'll give it another one just for, the color to really be bright on that, tube bait. You don't want to pull it away while it's still dripping, obviously. Let it just do its thing. Use the edge of the cup to pull all those little tag ends away. And pretty much just let them sit after that. Let them sit. I give them about another 2 to 3 minutes to really settle down, firm up. And then you can see right here, this is pretty much what you're left with once you pull them off the rods. They ended up being about 2.5, somewhere 3 inches, just because of how far I was dipping them. That had a lot to do with it. But I put them in this water that's it's had ice, so it's really cold, and it just helps that plastisol set up faster. It cures it. I take them out and then we start cutting the tails. Once we do that, this is what we're left with. And yeah, that's the final product. You have some nice 2-3 inch tube baits. I hope you guys really liked the video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more of this. I really appreciate all the support, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.